My name's Zach Auber, and I am the host here at the pad, and you are joining us for our live chat and coverage of the Human Lander System announcement with NASA. Lots of information has been getting leaked all kind of morning and afternoon. NASA came out, said they're going to have an official statement and teleconference at 4 p.m. Eastern, so we are coming up at about 10 minutes away from that. So we're here. We're actually on the teleconference as media, so I'm going to patch that in here in a couple of minutes, and we are going to listen in and see what is happening with that. It looks like they just started up their official feed as well, so we might patch that in there. But some exciting news, based if the rumors are true, that SpaceX has been selected, but we're going to wait for that official statement to find out whether it was Dynetics, SpaceX, or the national team that got selected for the next generation of human lunar landers for it. The announcement should start here in the next 10 minutes, but let us know in the chat where you're watching from. Let us know who you would have selected for it, or if you would have selected multiple teams. But a very exciting step in the Artemis program, as in just a few minutes we'll find out who was selected. I'm going to pull up here just a little bit more about the decision options that there were. So 1 year ago, almost to the day, NASA announced April 30th, so just under a year, announced that Blue Origin, Dynetics, and SpaceX were the three finalists that were chosen to do a design and planning for the next generation of Artemis human landers for it. Each three companies came back with their design options. We have Blue Origin, which is the prime contractor with the national team. They're also partnering with Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and Draper, and this is their integrated lander vehicle. So we did see Blue Origin display their lander system, and then they said, well, we'll put the national team's human components on the top. This is just one of their earlier renders of what it could look like. You can see off in the distance of this picture, actually, what one of their landers could look like for cargo, with the cranes on the side that could deploy rovers or other equipment for it. But that was option one with them. Option two was the Dynetics lander, which a lot of people really liked how low Dynetics was. You know, it's just a couple of steps. Looks a little more permanent with it, with the big panels, the big door on the front. And then, there's that one. And that was working with over 25 subcontractors. So that was a very large team working on that design. And then good old SpaceX comes in and says, we're just going to land Starships as the option for it. Much bigger size team that could fit obviously in these landers. People have been guessing 30 up to 100 depending on configuration and what living capabilities there are. Really nice thing with Starship is there's nothing saying you couldn't gut the Starships down the road and turn them into much bigger living facilities and very quickly have a very large complex on the lunar surface. So lots of different things for it, but lots of people joining in. Oh, love the backdrop. Thank you so much. I would have picked anyone but the national team. Their ladder is too long. So it is a long ladder if you look at it, because you're going to be coming in from that top half, and about halfway up the top half's that door. So it is quite a team. Now, if you're comparing it to what Starship is, it's much bigger, but Starship's like, it's okay, we'll just put a crane in and have a big elevator come down the side, which would make sense also for cargo. A lot of people think SpaceX would have been selected because NASA kind of read the writing on the walls of, if they don't pick SpaceX, well, SpaceX is going to do it by themselves anyways. So we'll wait and see. We're waiting 5 minutes. I'm going to bring up the teleconference here just on my phone as we listen in for that. Hopefully it's not copyrighted music. I don't think it would be. And we will patch in the official live stream from NASA. There's no video conference for this. It is just a phone conference today going through the three options, but a very exciting day for kind of everyone to finally have. We know how SpaceX is going to be helping take cargo to the moon. We know kind of some of the plans for what the Artemis program will look like, but we still haven't had an answer on how we are getting humans back to the ground. And we're just a couple years away from when this is supposed to happen, 2024. So 3 years from now, we should be landing the first men back on the moon and the first woman. Many other firsts that will happen as well. First Canadian's going to be going on Artemis 2, not to land, but to at least go in orbit around it. and do a flyby. So lots of exciting things coming up in the near future about going back to the moon. Emilio, I want to say it is, watching from Tijuana, Baja California. Hello, my friend. Welcome. Been there before. Hope you are all well. We got Blaine. We've got a lot of different people joining in. So, yeah, let us know in the chat where you're watching from, who you would have selected here. We're about 5 minutes away from when we are expecting NASA to start up their teleconference stream. We'll generally be about 30-45 seconds ahead since we're actually on the conference call. So we will be listening in there and probably pat that in as well as we finally get an answer to this. Now, we're not sure how long this teleconference will be. The first time that when they announced the other three, it was about an hour and a half. As media, we have not been told if there will be a question period to this announcement today, so we haven't heard anything there. Hopefully there will be, so if you have any questions, let us know in the chat below what questions you'd be asking about their decision here, and feel free to drop those in as the announcement comes out, and we'll go from there. But if you're new to the launch pad, welcome. Again, my name's Zach. I'm the host here at the pad. Here at the pad, we cover everything space flight, space engineering in the future, space and STEM, and we're excited to have you here with us today for this special announcement. If you're new, make sure to head on over to our YouTube channel, hit subscribe. I'm sure you've got hundreds of subscribers, but let's be honest, what's just one more? And you'll probably always enjoy the content we're trying to bring you. Always trying to keep you up to date. When you follow us over on Twitter, that's where we live tweet out any breaking news or updates or photos or videos from the ground from sources we have, and can answer your questions live. Also, go behind the scenes and plug in on our Discord. You can go behind the scenes, help plan upcoming interviews, be part of interviews, and more there. All the links should be in the description of this video. Discord's free, so come on, jump on over. And the last part of it, check out our shop. We just launched our brand new The Launchpad shop. Everything goes back into making the studio possible, making it possible for us to be on the ground in the near future. We are making some plans on being back down at Kennedy here in the fall once the borders and stuff open up and the pandemic gets under control, and excited to be doing that. Take a moment, share the broadcast, let people know that this announcement is being made. This is what is going to be replacing the Apollo lander from the 60s. This is the next generation of it. This is what will be used for many years to come, if not decades, while we build these new, larger complexes on the moon and then eventually from Mars. So very excited to be here with you. We're going to pull this up here. So we're just waiting for them to patch in here and go there. Hello, Orlando, Mario, hello to our Discord community that's jumping on here. And yeah, we are about 2 minutes away here. Now, can anyone hear the music from the phone? Is it too loud, too quiet? Just let us know. This is the first time we've been doing this. Okay, awesome. Joe Flag, welcome. Just going to take a second here and share out the broadcast even just on my end. So join me in doing so for just a minute. Too loud? Let me do this here. We'll patch the YouTube audio in once they get started. And then if they do go to a Q&A, we'll probably jump back to the phone. We haven't heard if they're going to do one or not. But if you have questions, let us know over in the chat. If you have any questions that you would want to ask, if we have an answer, great, we'll answer them. And if not, we'll see if we can get an answer from NASA if they do an A for the announcement. This was a very last minute announcement of today's event. Today, Crew 2 arrived at Kennedy Space Center, did a flyby, did a quick video press conference from the ground as they are entering their final few days before their launch, which we will, of course, be live covering for you here on the launch pad. So subscribe so you don't miss that. That's coming up on April 22nd. They have the 23rd as a backup day, and then they have to wait a couple more days after that if they want to try again. But space station's very, very busy. 10 people up there right now. 3 will be departing in the next... oh, here we go.
NASA's human space flight. We have some very exciting news to share with you about the Artemis program. In 2020, NASA selected 3 American companies to build human landing systems in order to inspire innovation and support the growing lunar economy. Later today, NASA is going to announce the team that won the competition to build the lander that will take astronauts to the moon. This is a really big deal because people haven't been to the moon in about 50 years. The best thing about competitions is that they bring different people and teams together to think about challenges or problems in new ways. That's why we ask students across the country to compete in our Artemis Moon Pod Essay Contest. We asked students from grades K through 12 a similar question. How would you design a mission to the moon? I have to tell you, those essays we got back are truly inspiring. Today, you get to hear from the finalists. Thank you to the teachers who organized this activity in your classroom, and all of the brilliant students who wrote an essay, and for sharing your lunar exploration dreams with us. We are doing everything we can to make them come true.
Greetings from the Artemis Base Camp. This is the commander reporting on our first day, along with my strong, determined, well-trained, curious, and optimistic team of 4 members.
My crew is going to have astronauts, who are doctors, mechanics, and scientists. Each astronaut is a team player, who's calm and can make good decisions.
An expedition to the moon South Pole, the BEST. Best team consists of Barbara, Elizabeth, Steve, and Tom.
This mission will put to test our field-leading abilities and years of bonded friendship to establish a permanent research facility on the moon's South Pole powered by Krusty.
My top priority would be analyzing the water deposits of the permanently shadowed craters. Water is essential for drinking, fuel, cooling machinery, and growing plants, making it the most important commodity on our moon.
A system of solar panels can be set up around a crater that receives constant sunlight to power both a BrickoBot and a brick-baking solar oven.
Thus, an observatory could probe deep space without light interference from the Earth. Since the moon has no atmosphere to diffuse it, the light from the sun would have little effect on stargazing.
Using our comprehensive and diverse skill set, we will provide a practical tool that will change lunar exploration forever.
Embarking on this incredible adventure, I couldn't help but be grateful to be given this opportunity to lead the most remarkable crew and to know I was a part of the Artemis generation.
Hello, I'm astronaut Randy Bresnik, and I just wanted to say great job to all the essay contest finalists. It is truly inspiring to hear young people thinking about the future of space exploration. All of us at NASA were once kids just like you, imagining what it would be like to go into space, to walk in space, to walk on the moon, or build the next generation of great spacecraft, which is what we're doing right now. Big dreams like those aren't easy to achieve. It takes teams across the country and around the world working together to make it all possible. We're counting on all of you to dream big and join us in continuing being creative, working hard, and keep working together. This is an amazingly exciting time for the Artemis program. For you, for me, for all of us in the Artemis generation. This is our time. So keep watching to find out which human landing system design or designs will be continuing forward in the developmental process, and follow at NASA Artemis on social media for all the latest updates. Go Artemis.
So if you're just joining us, welcome. We are tuning in live to NASA TV as we prepare for the official announcement of the human landers, teasing that they might be more than one getting selected in that last video. But we are going to see here in just the next...
Landing humans back on the moon is we're going back in a way that is totally different. We've had almost 60 years of experience, and we're taking every single ounce of experience we have and taking that with our international partners, with our commercial partners.
We've been working for the last year with 3 partners who will help us achieve the next human mission to the moon, because we know that this first step to the moon will then lead us to go to Mars. And we know that the Human Landing System is one of the first steps to get us there. And so we've been working with Dynetics, a Leidos company. We've been working with Blue Origin, who have partners of Draper, Lockheed Martin, and Northrop Grumman. In addition, we've also been working with SpaceX.
I'd like to point out that is a different mock-up of Starship than we have seen before.
This is a very, very exciting time for the Human Landing System program. They've spent a lot of blood, sweat, and tears over this last couple years getting ready for this moment.
We're really excited to bring you the announcement of who NASA is going to continue to finish out the Human Landing System and take humans back to the moon. NASA has chosen SpaceX to return us to the moon. I am so excited to partner with SpaceX in this fantastic endeavor for the Artemis suite of missions. So congratulations to the SpaceX team.
The SpaceX design is a single-stage solution using their Starship. It provides extensive volume for the crew with 2 airlocks and ample down mass capability. The SpaceX proposal included in-space propellant transfer demonstration and uncrewed test landing.
So now that we've selected our partner, and for the next phase going forward, we have to make sure that the testing occurs, because we're not going to launch humans until we have a successful test. So we will be working to make sure that the design and everything that we have going forward so far is ready to go.
So the Human Landing System is going to allow us to be able to access different parts of the lunar surface. But it also allows us to explore a new technology and capabilities that will help us when we are trying to figure out our next round of technologies to be able to help us land on Mars or other planets out there.
I'd like to thank the companies for the great work this past year. We've all learned a lot. I'd like to thank the NASA team, because you have definitely risen to this challenge.
It is one more step and an exciting group of steps that will get us to a sustainable human landing system to the moon.
And there it is, a little different way of an announcement than I think most of us thought this would be for such a big announcement. But there we have it. SpaceX, the lunar starship, like many of us thought would be picked, has been officially picked. And so I'm just listening into the teleconference.
Are in a listen-only mode until the question-answer session of today's call. At that time, You can press *1 on your phone, unmute, and clearly record your name. Your name is required to introduce your question. Today's call is being recorded. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. It's my pleasure to turn the call over to Monica Witt. You may now begin, Monica.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us to announce the company selected to develop a modern human landing system known as the DHLS. Last year, NASA selected 3 U.S. companies to begin design and development of human landing systems for the Artemis program. Today, we will announce which of those 3 companies will land the next 2 American astronauts on the surface of the moon. NASA is on track for sustainable human exploration of the moon for the first time in history. My name is Monica Witt, a public affairs officer with the NASA's Office of Communication, and I am joined here with NASA's Acting Administrator, Steve Jerzik, Kathy Leaders, the Associate Administrator for the Human Exploration and Operations Mission Directorate, Mark Kirasich, Deputy Associate Administrator for Advanced Exploration Systems, Lisa Watson-Morgan, the Human Landing System Program Manager, and Tyler Cochran, the Human Landing System Contracting Officer. Each speaker will make brief remarks, and then we will open the lines for questions from the media. For the reporters on the line, when it's time for questions, press *1 to get into the queue and ask a question. Please remember to state your name and media affiliation before you speak and address the speaker who you'd like to answer your question. Please ask one question and address one speaker at a time. You may enter the queue again and ask additional questions afterward. First, we will hear from Acting NASA Administrator Steve Jerzik. Steve?
While we wait for them to get started, if you have a question
Monica, it looks like Steve's line
that
has
you want us to ask during the Q&A, let us know in the chat. We are on the teleconference. We'll be taking your questions and maybe selecting one of them if we get the chance. So let's listen in. Right now, they're just trying to reconnect with the Acting NASA Administrator, Steve. His line disconnected. Here we go.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. This is Steve Jerzik. I'm excited to be here today to provide an update on our Artemis program. For the last year, NASA has continued to move our programs and missions forward while keeping our workforce healthy and safe. And like all organizations, it's been a real challenge, but I've been real proud of our workforce and our partners and what we've been able to accomplish. Less than a year ago, we had the first launch of American astronauts for American soil with the Demo 2 mission in almost a decade, followed by the Crew 1 mission in November, and the Crew 2 mission is set to launch April 22nd, Thursday of next week. We're really proud of the NASA SpaceX team. We continued safe and productive operations of the International Space Station. We had the launch and landing of the Perseverance rover, and we're currently preparing for the first powered flight on another planet with the Ingenuity helicopter. These and many other accomplishments are a testimony to the talent, hard work, and dedication of the NASA workforce, along with our industry and international partners, and I could not be more proud of our team. The U.S. leads in space exploration now, but more and more countries are taking aim at the moon. We have a strong plan to get astronauts back on the moon under the Artemis program, and we're excited about these next steps. We are working diligently with our partners to ensure we meet our national goals of landing the next American astronauts on the moon as quickly and safely as possible. At least one of those astronauts will make with this lander as the first woman on the moon, a historic first. Additionally, the first person of color will also walk on the moon as part of the Artemis program. Part of our mission is inspiration, and we are inspiring the Artemis generation, and we won't stop at the moon. NASA's long-term goal has always been to send humans to Mars, which is rich in discovery, and the moon is a natural stepping stone to getting us there. The Artemis lunar landing is a key piece to our moon to Mars strategy. Targeting the soonest possible launch date will better focus our engineering, technology development, and processes to safely and successfully establish sustainable lunar exploration and prepare for Mars. The next lunar landing will drive discoveries in science and technology, support the emerging deep space economy, and maintain strategic national leadership in space. We believe that turning to the moon is strategically important with numerous rewards and benefits, and we should accomplish the next landing as soon as possible. Today is a big step forward in that we are announcing a key capability we need to return astronauts to the surface of the moon for the first time since 1972, a modern human landing system. This is an incredible time to be involved in human exploration for all humanity. We have a lot of information to get through today, so I'm going to turn it back over to Monica to introduce our next speaker.
Thank you, Steve. Next, we will hear from Kathy Leaders, the Associate Administrator for the Human Exploration and Operations Mission Directorate at NASA. Kathy?
Thanks again for being here. You know, when Steve asked me to take on this job last year, I knew there'd be a lot of exciting missions going on, but once again, you guys get to hear today about another exciting milestone that we have in progress for human spaceflight and exploration under now the Artemis program. You know, the Human Landing System is a vital part of NASA's deep space exploration plans. And the Human Landing System joins our other parts, NASA's Space Launch System, the Orion spacecraft, and the Gateway Lunar Outpost, and really completes then the foundation of NASA's lunar exploration program. These are all vital parts of NASA's deep space exploration plans, and we've seen a lot of recent success with so many of these components. So let me go through a few things here. Just recently, the core stage of NASA's Space Launch System, the most powerful rocket the agency has ever built, completed a full-duration green run hot fire test. This was a critical milestone ahead of the agency's Artemis 1 mission, which will send an uncrewed Orion spacecraft on a test flight around the moon and back to Earth, and which will pave the way for our future Artemis missions to the lunar surface. I always say that Artemis 1's our shakedown cruise. It's where we're making sure that the vehicle is all checked out before we next put crews on that mission. Additionally, in the last year, we made agreements to collaborate on the Gateway Lunar Outpost with 3 international partners and have a number of commercial contributions on the Gateway. NASA is showing everyone we have what it takes, but we're not doing it alone. It's very important for us that we do it as a team with both our international partners and our industry partners. So our goal 50 years ago was to prove we could land humans on the moon and return them safely to Earth. And this time our goal is to return to the moon in a sustainable way, to gain insight and bring back lessons that will help propel us into greater exploration that's never been done before. And we're doing it different in a lot of ways this time. Our efforts will draw on insight and effort from across America, serving as an unparalleled and inspiring example of what humanity can do when it comes together to achieve a common goal for the common good. We bring together the capabilities and resources of our international and commercial partners to return to the moon and then go on to Mars. And we will demonstrate to young people around the world the power of a unified purpose. We're also doing with crews that are more diverse than ever before. Near and dear to my heart, we are sending a woman, like Steve said, to the surface of the moon on this lander. Representing the diversity of the American public will mean a lot for those out there who will be watching.
We'll show them you can land on the moon. And this is what an astronaut looks like. So we're hoping to not only get a woman on the moon, but as we're bringing our future missions on, also getting a person of color on the moon so all of us can see ourselves on the moon. We are grateful for the contributions and commitments from all of our commercial and international partners. NASA's Apollo program proved it is possible to land humans on the moon and return them safely to Earth. But when NASA returns to the moon with the Artemis program, it will go in a way that reflects the world today with government, industry, international partners in a global effort to build and test the systems needed for challenging missions to Mars and beyond. So I'm going to turn it over to Monica because I think there's some news that's coming up for us.
Thank you, Kathy. So next, we will hear from the HLS Program Manager, Lisa Watson-Morgan, who has some exciting news about the U.S. company that's building the Artemis Human Lander. Lisa?
Thanks, Monica. Yeah, it's a real honor to be part of the NASA team working toward our Artemis mission and to lead the incredible and resilient HLS team across the agency that's spread all across the country with U.S. industry to bring us to this very exciting step today. I'd like to personally thank each of the teams, each of the companies that have been with us in this endeavor. The Blue Origin-led team, the Dynetics team, a Leidos company, and the SpaceX team. Your leadership teams and host of personnel executing during this amazing 11 months has been really wonderful. The HLS team developed outstanding relationships with each of the partner companies during this 11-month period. And each company provided unique strengths during the base period. We moved rapidly and we achieved milestones that got us closer and closer to our goal of a human lunar landing. We worked through technical and safety standards to include health and medical requirements for the crew. Each design was different, which was really exciting to see. And during the base period of performance over the last several months, we were looking to see what industry partners could bring to NASA with respect to innovation for a modern human landing system. NASA encouraged offers to propose those innovative solutions performing crewed lunar demonstration missions. Throughout the procurement, NASA and the base period contractors have been working towards reliable and economical solutions to meet our goals. NASA personnel supported each partner, providing design support, analysis, subject matter experts, and testing. NASA had this inline team working alongside each partner, which helped us to move faster. This collaborative relationship will continue as we move into this Option A period of performance. And NASA will continue to work closely with our selected partner to build the first commercial HLS. NASA is providing insight throughout this development and is ensuring that this system will be safe for our astronauts. In addition, NASA is requiring a test flight to fully check out all systems with a landing on the lunar surface prior to our formal demonstration mission. As you know, that Option A demonstration mission is where we take humans to the surface and return them safely so that Orion can return them back safely to Earth. So we want to make sure that everything is checked out and everything is ready prior to that. So today, I'm very excited, and we are all very excited to announce that we have awarded SpaceX to continue the development of our integrated human landing system. SpaceX Starship is a fully reusable launch and landing system designed for travel to the moon and other future destinations. It's a single-stage crewed landing system. It utilizes Earth orbit refueling of liquid oxygen and liquid methane propellants. The system leans on the company's tested Raptor engines, flight heritage of the Falcon and Dragon vehicles. Starship includes a spacious cabin and 2 airlocks with a great deal of space for our crew, as well as additional payload capability, that will permit us to take experiments to the moon and return samples back and do all the important science that we want to do on this mission. As the first human lunar lander in 50 years, this innovative human landing system will be a hallmark in space exploration history, and we're going to help to write that history. NASA's Apollo program captured the world's attention and demonstrated the power of America's vision and technology and can-do spirit. And we expect Artemis will similarly inspire great achievements, innovation, and scientific discoveries. We are confident in NASA's partnership with SpaceX to help us achieve the Artemis mission and look forward to continuing our work toward landing astronauts on the moon to prepare for the next giant leap towards Mars. Thank you, Monica.
Thank you, Lisa, and this is a very exciting time. Next, we will hear from Mark Kurisich, the Deputy Associate Administrator for Advanced Exploration Systems at NASA. Now, this is an exciting time. There are also exciting steps ahead, so that's what we're going to hear from Mark. Mark?
Thank you, Monica. And as you said, today represents a huge accomplishment on our journey, but it's certainly not the last, and that's what we want to talk about now. Kathy mentioned earlier that we are more open than ever to innovative ideas and new ways of doing business, and that extends beyond today's award. There's a lot in store for NASA teaming with industry, and our planned activities on the lunar surface and the cislunar space around the moon will provide excellent opportunities for NASA to expand its commercial and global partnerships. So for the past year, under the base period contract, NASA has worked with 3 contractors, and moving forward today, NASA and SpaceX will continue development of really 2 vehicles. One, the first will be an uncrewed lunar landing test flight, and the second will be the first crewed landing. So again, this contract, the Option A contract, is for a single crewed landing demonstration mission. We have to move on to next. We have to be able to provide the recurring landing services for, as Kathy talked about, the sustainable mission we have. So while the majority of the DHLS program will be focused on this first crewed mission under the contract we awarded today, Lisa's team will also begin work immediately on this follow-up competition. We're accelerating what we call the Human Lunar Landing Services procurement. This competition will provide regularly recurring services to the lunar surface that will enable these crewed missions on a sustainable basis. As early as next week, we'll be engaging industry for their input on how to best fashion and enable competition for this very important acquisition. We'll be looking for the best mechanism out of the suite of acquisition tools we have available to get the best and most possible industry participation. All of us here at NASA were impressed with all of our base period partners, their unique and innovative solutions to meet our goals. And our hope is that we'll see all 3 of these companies and other companies who weren't in the base period providing transportation to the moon, increasing opportunities for exploration, and stimulating a lunar-based economy. So we all look forward to working with SpaceX. Lisa, congratulations to your team for the work they've done to get us here. And Monica, back to you.
Thank you, Mark. So now we will open the floor for questions from the media. For reporters on the line, press *1 to get into queue and ask your question, and the operator will open you when it's your time. Please remember to state your name and media affiliation before you speak and address the specific speaker that you would like to answer your question. Please only ask 1 question per speaker at a time. Thank you.
We will now begin the question-answer session. As a reminder, it's *1 to ask a question. Unmute, clearly record your name and association. One moment. Our first question comes from Issam Hamid. Your line is open.
Oh, hi. Thanks for taking my question. This is Issam Ahmed from AFP. Sorry, it might be a fairly basic question, but I'm trying to understand how Lander sort of integrates with SLS and Orion together, because Starship is its own system as well. So how do they sort of combine? What's going to happen there? Sorry, whoever is most relevant for that. Hello?
Yeah.
Hey, Lisa, why don't you answer that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So that's a great question, and thank you for the question. So what we plan on doing is, from an operational concept, HLS goes to the near rectilinear halo orbit, and we're there loitering, performing system checkouts and making sure that everything is ready, the ECLS system, life support system, all systems go and ready. And so once we get that okay, that the system is ready to ferry crew, then the SLS carries Orion to the near rectilinear halo orbit, at which time it will dock with Gateway. And then, so for our future missions, then we will receive crew from the Gateway. For our initial mission, we can receive crew from either direct from Orion or from Gateway. So we must have the SLS and Orion complement in order to take the crew to the location in orbit at which we will receive the crew, and then the HLS, the SpaceX architecture that we have awarded, will then descend to the lunar surface with our crew. They will get out and perform EVAs, moonwalks, the science, get back into the Starship, and return back to the safe haven, at which time they'll go into Orion, which will return them back to the Earth.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Andrea Linefelder with the Houston Chronicle. Your line is open.
Hi, thank you for taking this questions. Lisa, this is for you. I've got two questions. First, the Starship, is it going to launch on the SLS to get out into orbit? How does it get there? And then second, obviously we've been watching the development, and they haven't quite stuck the landing yet. So are you sure that it'll be ready in time for when NASA plans to be lowering astronauts on the moon? Thank you.
So for the Human Landing System, all partners had to propose an entire integrated landing system to include a launch vehicle. And so for this design, SpaceX has chosen to launch Starship and many refueling tankers on a super heavy booster. And so everyone had to propose their own launch vehicle in order to take their system to the place to marry up with Orion and Gateway. And so, as I mentioned earlier, we also are performing a landing test on the moon prior to any crew readiness activities, and that will give us the confidence that we know that our partners, along with us, will be ready. In addition, as I mentioned in some of the opening remarks, we have a collaborative workforce, which are subject matter experts on the NASA team who are working alongside the partners. So we'll work alongside with SpaceX, and as we have areas that we need to work through, then we'll work through those. But right now, everything looks good.
Our next question comes from Stephen Clark, Space Flight Now. Your line is open.
Thank you for taking my question. Stephen Clark, Space Flight Now. Just wanted to get some comments on why NASA did not select more than one HLS provider for option A. We've heard NASA for years now talk about the benefits of competition with COTS and CRS and commercial crew. And it seems like you're at least for this demonstration, not going that route. So just some comments on why not. And also just a clarification for the option A demonstrations, how many refueling tankers will be needed for the Starship flight to the moon? And also, will this option A demonstration go through the Gateway, or will Orion dock directly to the Starship, and how does that work? Some more details there, please. Thanks.
So I'll take the first part, and then I'll let Lisa take the second part, okay? So, this is obviously part of an overall strategy, right? And so we weighed a lot of things, including what we're getting from the demonstration mission, what we want for our potential future procurement for our sustainable landers, and it was in NASA's best interest, along with kind of the budget that was there, for us to award to one demonstration mission at this time. But Lisa, I'll let you go ahead and jump in and talk about the rest of it.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, as I mentioned, we will initially be docking with Orion in order to receive the crew. That is the plan today, and one of the requirements was that for our initial mission, which is the Option A demonstration, everyone had to be able to dock and transfer crew. And for future missions that Mark discussed, some of our sustaining and services missions in the future, we will require docking to both. And we will primarily receive crew from Gateway. That's our sustained path to give us global access to the moon and will help us to have a more sustainable program.
Our next question comes from Jeff Faust from Space News. Your line is open.
Good afternoon. Question probably for Lisa Watson-Morgan. If you can elaborate a little bit more on the factors that led you to select SpaceX and only SpaceX for the award, technical, price, etc. And then also perhaps for Acting Administrator Jerzyk, you mentioned returning humans to the moon as soon as possible. Do you have a no earlier than date? Is 2024 still feasible for doing so? Thank you.
Like we talked about, we looked at, and I think you all will see the source selection statement, but we talked about kind of looking at, obviously, with the factors that are there, what's the best value to the government, right, for the technical approach that's there. I want to emphasize, we tend to talk about this particular award, but this is part of a strategy for us to, an overall strategy for us to get to sustaining missions to the lunar surface, which is what, Mark Kirsich had already talked about. So when we looked at that overall strategy and we looked at where we are now and with the award that we had now and the capabilities there, and then we also looked at how we're evolving our Artemis strategy and looking at potentially bringing in our services procurement earlier, like Mark talked about, we felt like this was the best strategy at this point from a NASA perspective for us to award to one at this point, and then begin discussions with industry about how to further develop additional competition out there for a future services contract. So this is obviously part of an overall larger strategy, and we'll be continuing to, include you on that strategy as that strategy gets approved at the agency level and, gets rolled out. This is the first step.
Yeah, and Jeff, here's the second part to your question. So we're currently undertaking internal comprehensive review of Artemis and its component programs to ensure that they can be implemented as quickly, efficiently, and effectively as possible within our existing resource constraints, while maintaining the safety standards, making sure we can conduct the missions safely with our astronauts. The DHLS contract provides for a launch and lunar landing as soon as 2024, in accordance with the contractor's approved development and mission schedule. So we had made landing in 2024 a goal in the RFP we put out that allowed the three contractors to update their proposals, and that's what's in the plan right now that SpaceX proposed, and we're awarding a contract for. Congress provided funding that supports the award of the contract and includes the schedule. These human-rated system developments are very complex. and there is risk, but the NASA team will have the insight into the progress that SpaceX is making, and if they're hitting their milestones, we may have a shot at 2024, and we'll, again, like Kathy said, we'll keep you updated as we move along with SpaceX.
We always fly when it's safe, right? And as you guys have noticed, as we've been bringing on new capabilities, yes, you have a goal of when you want them to happen, but we are flying people again, and we will be flying people to the lunar surface, and we'll do it when it's safe.
Yeah, Kathy's absolutely right. We're never going to drive to a date or a programmatic goal and compromise safety. I think we've demonstrated that, with our current partnerships, and that'll be the case for the development of the human landing system. So thanks for the question.
Our next question comes from Eric Berker. Your line is open.
Hi, Eric Berger with Ars Technica. Thanks for doing this. Two questions, I guess. One for Steve and one for Kathy. Steve, I guess, would it be accurate to say that NASA could not afford the Dynetics and national team bids with the current budget from Congress? You got about 1/4 of what you asked for, and SpaceX was clearly the lowest bid. And then Kathy, I'm just curious, was the progress that we've all seen in Boca Chica, they're blowing up starships, but they're moving really quickly in their development program. Was that a factor in your determination that SpaceX had the best plan or the fastest plan to get NASA back to the moon?
Hey, Eric, this is Steve. Yes, so we've evaluated each company's proposal independently, and we used the criteria that in the solicitation, which is in order of importance, technical approach, cost, and management approach. So given the evaluation of the three proposals, that's on technical approach, cost and management approach, and the budget we have available, we determined the best way forward for us was to select SpaceX for option A, and then to move forward and accelerate the landing services procurement, and we'll be reaching out to all of industry to get input on how to best move forward on a landing services procurement, which will enable awards for HLS contracts for landers subsequent for the first landing, demo landing with SpaceX.
Hey, and I think the second question was the role of SLS and Orion, and how does the HLS get to orbit? And I think, Lisa, why don't you talk a little bit about kind of the concept? I think you covered it before when you talked about, we're planning on doing a human landing system rendezvous in, NRHO, but why don't you talk a little bit about the SpaceX concept? And normally we'd have one of the providers here under these types of things and have them talk about their concepts, but Lisa and the team have been working with them really closely. Go ahead, Lisa.
Okay, thank you. So SpaceX will have multiple launches, and part of their concept is to have refueling in low Earth orbit. They'll perform that refueling, and that will allow them to go back and forth. And as we mentioned, once the Starship portion is fully checked out, then the SLS will launch the Orion to the appropriate rendezvous point, and they'll do their rendezvous and prox operations, and where they'll dock and gather the crew and perform all the science. So that's the typical operational concept and mission architecture and the timeline that we have.
Our next question comes from Keith Cowan with NASAWatch.com. Your line is open.
Hi, a question for Steve Jerzik. Senator Nelson's been a staunch supporter of the SLS since day one. And if NASA really used the capability of SpaceX's Starship architecture to its fullest sustainable extent, this could easily set forth a path to reduce the need for SLS launches. Senator Nelson's confirmation hearing is next week. If he says that this procurement decision needs to be revisited. Is NASA prepared to redo the initial Phase A procurement to pick more than one HLS contractor? And if Congress needs to enact changes in law to accommodate a procurement change, has NASA given thought as to how this would be accomplished?
Okay, so kind of 3 parts there. First part is we have no plans to change our architecture and our concept of operations for the lunar landing mission. So I think both Kathy and Lisa outline how the architecture is laid out and how the concept of operations is going to work, and we have no plans to change that. So, you know, we've conducted this procurement as we said we would, with a competition for a base period of contract and selecting 3 contractors, and then updated proposals for them through an updated set of requirements, and we evaluated those proposals and made a selection, and we're moving forward. We have no intent to revisit the selection at all. We said we did what we said we were going to do, according to what was in the request for a proposal, and we're moving forward, and don't anticipate requesting or needing any change in law.
Our next question comes from Chris Davenport from the Washington Post. Your line is open.
Hi, thanks guys, I appreciate it. I guess this is for Kathy. First, I don't know that Eric Berger's question got fully answered. I was wondering the same thing in terms of the cost prohibiting you from moving forward with more than one provider. And also, since it's the first time we're hearing it about this landing services contracts and the subsequent competition, I'm just wondering, you know, do you think you'll have more money then for that? If you could provide some details, how many flights you're thinking about, what the timeline is on that, thanks.
So, you know, first the way the, you know, and Chris, you're well aware of the way the process goes. I mean, the team goes off. We got 3 really great proposals. The team went in and looked at them, and then looking at the proposal, the first thing you get to do as for selection is go say what's the best value to the government within the strategy and the goals of the original goals of the procurement, right? And so understanding that, but then we also go and look at how does that then fit within with the overall strategy and where we are now with what we're trying to achieve. And one of the things that we found out as we're trying to achieve is we would really like to have human landers at the end of the 20s. And when you want to have human landers at the end of the 20s, you start backing that up and you start saying, I have to have services probably start being procured 5 or 6 years before that, right? And so when we started looking at the timelines and refining the timelines, this ended up kind of fitting in the right time with the goals that we were trying to achieve right now. And so we're still in the nascent period. We just last week went to an acquisition strategy council with Steve Jerzik on laying out the strategy with the timing of the services procurement. And so it's an evolving thing, and like I said, we'll have to continue to talk to you about that over this next, you know, few months as we're working through it. This was for us to talk about this particular procurement, but because we knew that there was a potential for there to be some questions about how does this fit in with the rest of the strategy, we're starting to talk about the rest of the strategy. There always was a rest of the strategy. If you went back to the procurement strategies that were there over the last few years, we had periods where we were trying to figure out, and we had different strategies to evolve the systems that people had, and then eventually buy services at some point. And as we've been learning things over time, and as the rest of our systems are maturing, including our gateway system, which is coming on contract, we obviously are going through our first demonstration of our crew transportation systems, and now we're starting to get better understanding and fidelity on the timing of when we would like our services procurement to happen. The team needs to go out and look and see how many missions we'll be procuring, but we know we would like to procure multiple missions and have it so that there's a significant investment for people and that we have significant competition for that level of services.
Our next question comes from Chelsea Goad. Your line is open.
Hi, Chelsea Goad from Space.com. I understand that going forward, this means that Starship will be the vehicle to complete this lunar landing, and it's been said that a variation on Starship is what SpaceX intends to land as part of this program. Is there any more information now that they've been chosen about what this variation actually looks like, how it will be different from the prototypes that we've seen before, and what is planned?
This is Lisa. I'm happy to take that one if you want me to, Kathy.
Go ahead and take some, but you know what's really nice with these kinds of agreements is, you know, SpaceX also will be, I'm sure, very happy to talk about their strategy too. But Lisa is obviously very aware of it. But it will be good. It will be good for folks to reach out to SpaceX also.
Oh, absolutely. That's a great point. Just from the human landing system standpoint, you know, we had 27 requirements, functional and performance requirements, that we asked the offerers, and including SpaceX, to respond to, and we went through, you know, a very detailed design, technical design, construction standards, safety, as well as health and human performance work, and all of that was pulled together, and that shifted various aspects of their Starship. Now, which ones of those? Kathy is right. It would be better to ask SpaceX, but they were able to meet or exceed the items that we had that we require for a safe human landing.
Our next question comes from Will Robinson Smith, Spectrum News 13. Your line is open.
Hi, thanks for doing this. Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Great. My question is for Lisa. Just wanted to circle back on that. The Super Heavy will be the launch vehicle that will carry Starship, correct, to the Lunar Gateway. And just to follow up on that, as far as the timeline for the Option 8 demonstration, is there a more specific date on when exactly that will happen? Thanks.
So Super Heavy, you are correct. That is the launch vehicle. And we are working towards the goal of 2024, just as we have had in the solicitation.
Our next question comes from Irene Klotz. Your line is open.
Thanks. Irene Klotz with Aviation Week. Is this contract dependent on a certain funding level for HLS in fiscal 21? And if so, what's that amount? That's for Steve. And for Kathy, is there an on-ramp for Blue Origin and Dynetics or anybody else for that matter to compete for the landing services procurement, or is this sort of a one-way road for SpaceX? Thanks.
Hey, so yeah, we awarded the contract with SpaceX given the appropriations we have in FY21 and what we believe are realistic budgets in future years. So we believe this is doable within what we have and what we can expect in funding. Kathy, you want to take the second piece?
So, what's the second piece? Sorry, remind me. Oh, the on-ramp. So sorry, Irene. So the services procurement is going to be a full-up procurement, right? So everybody will be full and open procurement. So we're actually hoping that everybody's out there, and even new providers are out there and looking at, starting to look at different the best opportunities for us to have a sustainable lander system and being able to provide sustaining landing services for multiple missions. We'll be, Irene, starting to get the data out there and everything, like Lisa talked about. We had a set of requirements for this demonstration mission, but we're actually putting together our sets of requirements now for our sustaining lander systems and starting to pull together the strategies for that new full and open sustaining landing services contract.
Our next question comes from Jake Robbins. Your line is open.
Hi there. Thanks for taking my question. I know that the Starship exceeds the mass and volume of the minimum requirements for the landing system. And I'm wondering if there's any consideration right now on changing any of the logistics, either for Gateway or for the landing, to account for the increased capability now that you've signed on the Starship.
Hey, Mark, you want to talk about that? You're kind of working overall architecture. I mean, everybody's just found out today. So I'm sure we'll be looking at, like Steve said before, we'll be looking at different options, but, we're sticking to, obviously, the basic pieces of our architecture. But, Mark, you got anything else you want to add?
I'll just reiterate, Kathy, now that we've made the selection today, SpaceX does have, the Starship has additional capabilities, and we'll be factoring it into our mission planning, figuring out what pieces we need to fly when to support the mission. So that's the work we have planned in the next couple of months. But certainly Jake, what you suggested is certainly something we'll be looking at.
Our next question comes from Chris Kephart. Your line is open.
Thank you. I'm Chris Kephart with NASA Spaceflight. I think this is for Lisa. Earlier on, you mentioned that this Option A contract isn't just for the crewed lunar landing flight in 2024, but also for an uncrewed demonstration flight prior to that. Can you walk me through that demonstration flight? How closely will it mirror an actual mission? Will it be required to test life support systems, the elevator? Will you look to put cargo on it? And is the plan to then leave that uncrewed demonstration lander up there and then use it for the crewed lunar landing in 2024? Thank you.
So for our landing demonstration test, it is really the descent portion. We want to make sure that we can successfully and safely land the crew on the lunar surface. And so we wrote, as with everything on the Human Landing System, we tried to capture high-level requirements. And then from that, then we will, as you have alluded to, we can drill down deeper as needed as we get closer. So for now, it's a descent, it's a landing test, and then from that, NASA will work with SpaceX to determine the best path and to determine how best to execute, as well as additional systems that would be needed to be tested out prior.
Our next question comes from Zachary Hobart. Your line is open.
Yes, thank you so much. This is Zachary Albert with the Launchpad News. Thanks so much for taking my question. First, congratulations to NASA and the SpaceX team. This is a big step forward towards the Artemis age and program, and excited to be seeing it happening. We know we saw the first crew of Artemis astronauts announced a few months ago, but we know that the NASA training program is quite extensive. Are there plans to be starting to open that up for more people to start applying so that we are able to be sustainable when we go back, not because of equipment, but because we actually have trained astronauts? And will there be an option to expand with Gateway because the Lunar Starship has such a capacity that there may be options for civilians to make the trip? Thank you so much.
Hey, so kind of a couple answers to that. First, yeah, we are actually in the middle of a astronaut application and selection process right now. We extended a little bit because of COVID to allow more people to apply and make sure we do the evaluation. So we are going to expand our astronaut core. And yeah, and then we announced this first cadre of Artemis astronauts, but that's not the only cadre of Artemis astronauts. In the future, some of those folks will fly, and we'll expand the cadre, and more people will be considered for flying on Artemis missions. And then right now, no plans on flying anybody but our astronauts on the Artemis missions right now.
Our next question comes from Zachary Hall. Your line is open.
Hey, my question is, in this contract, does NASA have a requirement for where Starship will launch from, like 39A at Kennedy Space Center, or could it be a SpaceX spaceport, like maybe one of the ULA rigs that they're working on? And then also, is SpaceX allowed to compete against this contract, which would be flying private citizens without requiring the uncrewed lunar landing test, or is there any rule against that in this contract?
Hey, Lisa, you want to take that?
Yeah, I can definitely at least take the first part. So as I mentioned earlier, we try to keep our requirements as high level and open as we could, because we were looking for modern, innovative solutions and to see what industry came up with. And as such, they can launch from any launch complex. It could be like 39A. It could be at a different location, and that's something that you could address with SpaceX. So we did keep our requirements high level on purpose.
Our next question comes from Paul Brinkman. Your line is open.
Hi, yeah, thanks for taking my question. I guess a question for Lisa. As far as I understand, this Starship would be the first spacecraft to land on another planetary body that wouldn't have like an ascent module. And I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit about, what you see in Starship that it's going to be able to land safely and then take off safely, all in one piece like that. Or is that just something you're leaving up to the demonstration flight? And then also, I'd just like to ask if it's possible to have SpaceX on a panel like this soon so we can ask them more questions. Thanks.
Sure, I can take that. So what I can tell you is that the solutions may look different. They may look like something you haven't seen before. But what I can tell you is that the NASA team thoroughly analyzed from an integrated performance and physics standpoint related to mass and capability and functionality, and to make sure the missions could occur, they could be done. We could close the mission. And so that was thoroughly assessed. So we are not, we do not have the concern there. What we will do is we will continue to test. And as Kathy alluded to earlier, we will not launch until we're ready. We will not launch until we feel like all the systems are safe.
And we'll, that was a great idea about us in the future starting to have these discussions with SpaceX, right? So, as you know, we always bring our partners along, and I'm sure Lisa would love it to have somebody here to answer some of these questions for her. So she's doing a great job, but thank you.
Hey, hey, this is Steve. So a couple of things. First, I wanted to follow up on clarifying an answer that I gave to a previous question, and then I'm going to turn it over to Monica to wrap us up, and I'll make some closing remarks. So just to be clear on that astronaut application, we didn't reopen the process for new applications. We're not doing that, but we needed more time to make sure we can do an appropriate evaluation of the candidates that did apply, including interviews, and that was challenging during COVID. So just want to be clear on that. And then when I said that, we don't expect private citizens or folks outside our astronaut car to fly on the astronaut missions, it also includes astronauts from our foreign partners, our foreign partner agencies. And so they will be part of the astronauts that fly as part of the Artemis missions along with our U.S. astronauts. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear. And then I'm going to just turn it over to Monica, and then I'll make some closing remarks.
Thank you so much, Steve. And thank you to all of our reporters and our speakers for asking such great questions and giving great responses. We are now closed for questions, and I'm going to actually turn it back over to Acting Administrator Steve Jerzik to offer some closing remarks. Steve, to you.
Hey, thank you, Monica. So NASA's Artemis program is well underway, as you can see, and with our lander award today, landing the next 2 American astronauts on the moon is well within our reach. Our work on Earth and in the stars has inspired humanity since the beginning of NASA, and when we once again walk on the moon, we will set the stage for human exploration farther into the solar system, including Mars and beyond. Technology development and maturation is essential for exploring the moon and preparing for crewed missions to Mars. In many ways, the moon will serve as a technology proving ground for the red planet. Our NASA team continues to be flexible and innovative to accomplish our missions, and that spirit of innovation is really critical has always been critical to our success. We cannot accomplish our missions without the support of our nation, our administration, and Congress. The President's recent funding request gives us the resources to continue to advance America's moon to Mars exploration plans. No other field unites us like space exploration, and with bipartisan support, we will move forward with our Artemis plan. Sustainable lunar exploration requires the best of NASA as well as our commercial and international partners. HLS leverages the best of U.S. industry and government knowledge, capabilities, and experience to push the boundaries of space exploration. So big thank you to Kathy, Lisa, and Mark, and all the media representatives for being a part of this important conversation today. This is an all-agency effort. One could argue it's an all-nation and global effort, and I could not be more proud of our NASA team and our commercial and international partners and all they do for NASA, the nation, and the world. So Monica, I'll turn it back over to you, and you can share everybody where they can get more resources.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Thanks, Steve, Kathy, Mark, Lisa, and Tyler from NASA for sharing this exciting news, and a big congratulations to SpaceX. Thanks to our guests for joining the call, and as a reminder, you can listen to a replay of this teleconference starting about after 1 hour of this conclusion by calling 888-566-0512. Replays will be available for 30 days. And again, one more time, that number for replays is 888-566-0512. And for some additional resources, you can get more information on everything that's going on with Artemis on nasa.gov/Moon to Mars. We'll be producing some additional information on the selection and more details about the Human Landing System on that site. And as always, if there are any more questions or you need additional information, we're sorry we couldn't get to everyone in the queue, but you can email myself or one of the PAOs, and we're happy to follow up with additional information. So as a reminder, you can find NASA PAO contact information for the Office of Communications at www.nasa.gov. And follow along and learn more about the Artemis program on our website. Thank you, everybody.
That concludes today's conference.
And that is it. That is the conference over. A little bit quieter there than I thought I was going to be, just because the operator ended up calling in and asking a couple questions, and then it's like, yeah, we'll get you in. So I was like, oh, okay, here we go. So thanks for sticking with us, and a lot of interesting questions, and some other questions that I think have made Twitter laugh, like how is Starship going to be put onto SLS? It's not. So some very interesting things. Make sure to go over to our Twitter. We're going to be tweeting out a lot of stuff over the next few hours and days from today's announcement. Thanks for hanging out for us, but we're not done yet. We're going to pull up a really great animation from Eric X Space, produced with Small Stars. It really shows really well how Starship and the Lunar Gateway are going to be working together, and how they really are going to be this system. One of the big things that we found out during today's announcement is that Starship is not going to be launching from Earth with the crew. Starship is very much going to be just the Lunar Lander System at this time. Also, they are going to be, this is only option A. So this is SpaceX has to do a demonstration first. Then they will do an official NASA demonstration like we saw with DM2. So very much DM1, DM2 with Crew Dragon, but now on the moon. And then they will look at doing a bigger contract for the future for actually activating the program. So obviously, way more questions that came there. I quickly asked about, obviously we know there's about 16 or 18 astronauts already that are in training and have been chosen as the next generation astronauts, as Artemis astronauts. So we got some clarification twice there, actually. And obviously, I like that he clarified at the end that there's going to be all the partners. Artemis is a big program. The Artemis Accords has, I believe it's 8 or 9 countries already signed up. So there's a lot more coming there. So definitely ways that you could probably get involved through your nations, depending where you're watching from, but also follow along with what NASA's doing, because they will have to open up more training opportunities in the near future, as that's just going to be what it is. They're going to need to be sustainable. That's what they want. Now it seems like we'll have an equipment option that's sustainable. Obviously, SpaceX has to get Starship off the ground and land it okay first. But in time, when that is nailed down, which we know SpaceX generally can do that pretty quickly, they've got 3 years, we're going to need a much bigger crew of astronauts ready, because with Lunar Starship, very quickly there could be a large, kind of colony or compound of different astronauts from different nations. If we look at the International Space Station today, there's 10 astronauts aboard. 3 are going to leave, and then we're going to have another crew of 4 going up. So we'll be up to 11, and we haven't seen that in a very long time. So lots there. I'm going to pull up this animation because it really shows well what we're going to be expecting to see with it. Again, this is from Space. I'll pull up the link here so you guys can see it. But this is very much how the current system will work with Lunar Starship. So we'll see that it'll be launching most likely from one of the new ocean platforms. This was back when we didn't know ocean platforms were a thing. It'll launch on Super Heavy, probably from Boca Chica for it. And we'll see this launch system. One other thing they talked about today is that this is only option A, and they didn't really get into it on what option A or option B will mean, but they did say that there will be other competition. So it does very much sound like there will be options for other landers in the near future, in the coming future, in the next years and decades, to have opportunities. They're all going to be using similar docking hatch couplers. So there's an option that Gateway Station is kind of that bus change interterminal, and other people can use it. So Lunar Starship will be first, but I'm sure we will see other types of vehicles in the future as well. But big announcement for SpaceX. They just announced they had raised over $1 billion not that long, about a week ago, not even, and now they're winning this very large contract to bring it to there. So this is showing how then Starship, once it gets into a low Earth orbit, it will need a refueling for it. So it will do that. So a Starship refuel tanker. We don't know how many of these refueling tankers it will need. They said it would need, I believe, 4 to go to Mars to really fully fuel Starship. But for the moon, it's not as far. So it looks like 1 will probably be enough. And then this is where the Lunar Starship will leave from Earth and come to the Lunar Gateway. This is where Lunar Starship really picks up the contract. The astronauts will already on Lunar Gateway from one of the Orion capsules. So the Orion capsules will dock, go onto the station, and then they will board Starship, and then Starship will leave and actually be the descending vehicle onto the ground or the lunar surface. When they're done, everyone loads back up into Starship. Starship goes back to the Lunar Gateway, and then they will reboard their Orion capsules, and that is what will bring them back to Earth. So a little bit different than what many thought were going to be the original plans for Lunar Starship, and that's not saying it couldn't change in the future. Again, that's where the video's from, some amazing renders from them. I'm sure we'll see lots more from them and others over the coming days. We got our first new picture of what Lunar Starship will look like from the announcement video at the very beginning. But I think that's where we're going to leave it for today. If you're just joining us, SpaceX has officially won the bid for the human landing system with NASA as part of the Artemis program. So a big move forward from NASA's side and for SpaceX. And that is where we're going to close out for tonight. This is the launch pad. We cover everything space, space flight, space engineering, and the future of space and STEM. And I thank you for joining us. Make sure you have followed us on Twitter to always stay up to date on all the late breaking news. Get plugged in on our Discord to go behind the scenes, help build questions and different things there. And make sure you subscribe so you don't miss when we go live with launch, landing, testing, and news conference coverage, as well as our weekly updates. From here at the launch pad, this is Zach signing off.